So I got a story to start off my speech. It's about a farmer and his donkey that was stuck in a well. A farmer saw his donkey stuck in the well, saw no way of getting it out, so he invited his neighbors over to shovel dirt into the well. And while they were shoveling dirt, the farmer noticed something pretty unusual that the donkey was doing. The donkey was shaking off dirt that the farmer was shoveling in there, and then took a step up, and he was eventually to get out that way. And the donkey ended up being safe and never gave up hope. And it reminds me of a quote from Nelson Mandela: "The greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall." And I got 3 points that kind of tie in with that. The first one being perseverance. A person in the past, Franklin D. Roosevelt, one of our famous presidents, and the concept of relentlessness. So without further ado, I'm going to get into my first point. That one being perseverance. And also it has some perseverance in Steven Spielberg. So Steven Spielberg, obviously a famous director, basically how his story ties in with that quotation. He was rejected from the Southern California School of Arts and Film 3 times, and was rejected from airing some of his stuff on television 3 times. How that ties in with the quote is pretty self-explanatory. The greatest glory of doesn't like not never falling or failing, but how he was able to come back and become one of the greatest directors of all time and do what he does to this day. Now that I've explained that, I'm going to go into the story of Franklin D. Roosevelt. So Franklin Roosevelt was one of our considered one of the greatest presidents of all time. If you don't know his story that well, age 39, he contracted polio and became paralyzed during his presidency. And instead of having his VP step in or somebody else stepping in the president's spot, he ended up continuing what he was doing, leading our country and setting a great example, leading the nation with strength and determination. How that ties back into the quote, if you're going to fall one way, falling to disease is something that is very tough and hard to bounce back from, especially disease as devastating as polio. But our president took it on with faith and determination and was able to lead us in one of the best ways our country has ever seen. The last concept I want to get into is relentlessness. The definition of that is unyielding in severity or strictness, unrelenting, relentless in persecution. I think that ties in perfectly with the quote, as well as other terms such as grit, determination, and other things I've said in some of my other speeches in the past. But all these words of just never giving up and never falling. Well, not never falling, but no matter how many times you fall, I think it's important that you think of these words and think of the ideology of everything, and just really stand true to that. So those are my 3 points. Just to summarize, I want to go over the 3 that I went over. The first one was perseverance with Steven Spielberg and his story. He failed 3 times, didn't flunk out of school, didn't get into the school he wanted to, and got rejected from TV 3 times. The second one, the story of our president, Franklin Roosevelt, still at a young age, at his age, like 39, to contract polio, get paralyzed, and still lead our country and do as great as a job as he did. I think it's very important to note that he didn't fear failing, he didn't fear falling down or messing up, and he just kind of went for it and did a great job. And the last one being the concept of relentlessness. Like I said, all those terms tie in pretty well together, as well as like grit and determination. As long as you keep that in the back of your head, no matter how many times you fail, you will get through it. So I just want to go over the quote one more time. It's from Nelson Mandela: "The greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but rising every time we fall." And that's all I have for you guys. Thank you for listening.